You're listening to Skate of Thrones, your go-to podcast for dialed-in LA Kings coverage.
When will the LA Kings finally figure it out? They're now 1-3-1 on the young season, 0-2 at home after having a historically great home record last year under Jim Hiller. Is it time to press the panic button after a 4-2 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight on Thursday? Well, Jim Hiller doesn't seem to think so. He's still confident in his guys, even after making some needed line changes because Anze Kopitar did not play tonight with an injury. He'll be evaluated tomorrow morning, according to Hiller, but the point is, LA has just not been able to play like itself through the first few games. A 4-2 loss where LA goes up 2-0 in the first period and gives away the game, gives up 4 unanswered goals. And the reason why I sort of bring up the fact and allude to that LA is not playing like itself is usually in the past, in these past year or so, when they were really good at home, they'd have a slow start and pick it up toward the end. Whereas in a game like this, they gave up 4 unanswered goals, one of which is an empty net goal that Sidney Crosby potted at the end. But the point is, LA had a quick start, a fast start with Anton Forsberg in net. Of course, another injury that's huge is Darcy Kemper. So you have to work with Forsberg and Copley. And Forsberg did not play good tonight at all, and I'll get into that in a moment. But just a tough game for the Kings. They give up a shorthanded goal. The power play has been blasphemous for LA so far as well. And I know that's something they've struggled with in prior years as well. But it's just something that, has remained an inconsistency and something as well that they didn't really seem to address in the offseason. LA 0 for 2 on the power play tonight. They're now 3 for 15 on the season. That is not good. And they gave up a shorthanded goal. So that, again, is not in the favor of that. They also gave up a power play goal. And the Kings have been the least disciplined team in the entire NHL. Tonight was really showing of that as well. They're lucky they only gave up 1 power play goal. But the power play goal they gave up was costly. And it really, started that rally and continued the momentum for Pittsburgh in this game. The Penguins, they have their own challenges, but Artur Shilovs has been a very good acquisition for them. They're a team of obviously kind of in the same spot as the Kings where they have some aging stars and they're trying to figure out where they go. But they dominated the Kings in periods 2 and 3, undoubtedly. In that first period, the Kings go up 2-0 quickly. Warren Foegele gets the first goal, and I just want to point out, Cody Ceci had a very good game. He had his best game as a King so far. He gets his first career LA Kings point. On the Foegele goal, he gets the secondary assist. Trevor Moore gets the primary, but really the main assist should go to Foegele because he followed up his shot, kind of bounced it off the pads of Shilovs, got it back to himself, got the goal. And then one of the best Kings goals I've seen in a while, at least this season maybe, was the next one, and that was Kevin Fiala. It was not really the goal, but more the sequence that I was impressed on. Joel Armia with a nice defensive stick in the D zone, then makes a crazy pass to Byfield through traffic. Byfield then connects in close with Fiala. So the Kings go up 2-0. And as much as I'd like to talk about LA's positives, that was kind of it. Those 2 goals were the main positives. There were other players I will point out that did well in this game for LA, but in that second period, it's really all Pittsburgh. I'll take that back a little bit because LA had some grade A chances in close. The puck was lying on the slot multiple times that they couldn't capitalize on. But in terms of goal scoring, it was all Pittsburgh. Malkin scores on the power play. And, you talk about lack of discipline. That was the Quinton Byfield penalty that he gave up. And Byfield has really struggled with discipline this year. It was Kevin Fiala at this point last year. It's been Quinton Byfield this year. And it's just ridiculous how, they haven't been able to address it at this point in the year. The Kings have just been so undisciplined, and they've now given up 24 opposing penalties through, just the first week or so, a little bit over a week of games. 5 games total. They've given up 24 power plays. That's ridiculous. 24 penalties. That just can't happen. You just can't let that happen. More penalty minutes being handed out every second. And what that does to a team like the Kings is it not only forces them to play on the back skate and give up goals like they have been doing, but also it takes away opportunities for them to have really quality zone chances. The Kings had 2 goals tonight, both off the rush. Do we remember? It's definitely happened this season, but it's been a while since the Kings have had a goal where they really looked good in the O zone for a quality forecheck. I mean, Fogel's goal more or less was off the forecheck, but it still came off a quick rush. And so the Kings have not had much of that this year. I think there's been some of that, but really not in droves. And so that's been something that they've struggled with. Now, in that second period, if we're going to talk about something they really struggle with, and this doesn't really have any exclusivity to this year, squandering chances in close. I mean, talk about Quentin Byfield. I think he's been LA's best forward, one of their best forwards so far. I won't say best, but he's been up there. He has had a lot of missed opportunities, and I think, that you can talk about the penalties on his regard as well. But he had like 2 grade A chances in close on the slot, couldn't get it to go on the crease practically. Then Danault and Kempe also had really good looks inside. Shilov's was phenomenal. He had a great game, had to face a lot of shots, and the Kings just kept peppering him in close. But when it's all said and done, Shilov's goes 30 of 32. That's .938 save percentage. It's a very good game from the netminder on Pittsburgh, whereas LA had Forsberg. He faced 25 shots and made 22 saves, but the goals he gave up were bad, and we're going to talk about those in just a sec. But yeah, Malkin scores, power play on the left side. It's a tough angle, but you got to save that if you're Forsberg. You got to hug the post. You got to figure it out. And then Dewar scores, the next one 41 seconds later, and it's a brutal break for Forsberg there. It was also a bad break defensively. I thought Brandt Clarke played pretty poorly tonight on the power play and in even strength as well. He did not look good in a lot of instances, and on that play, that was a big part of it, where he just couldn't track back. And, you can blame Forsberg all you want, and I do blame Forsberg there, but at the same time, he didn't track back. The D-men, that was the first goal that the Kings have given up when Clark's been on the ice. So it really talks about how good, it speaks to rather how good Clark has been this season for the Kings, offensively and defensively. He was quiet tonight. He did not do much. He did not have a good game. I'll put it that way. Joel Edmondson did not have a good game either. A lot of the Kings D-men didn't. I think Cody Ceci having a good game is the silver lining here. He clanked a post. He almost went bar down. That would have sent Crypto.com Arena into a frenzy, but no, it didn't happen, and the Kings overall just defensively fell apart tonight. And I know you can blame Forsberg, but it does hinge on a lot of the defense as well. And I mean, Clark is one of their better defensemen, so you got to look at him for primary production on a play like that, where they give up a soft goal. And that's not even on a power play. And we'll talk about the goal that the Kings did give up on their own power play, but yeah, that was the first goal the Kings had given up when Clark was on the ice. And him and Edmondson had some of the lowest grades tonight. So just speaks to it. I will say I think Dumoulin had a solid game. I like what he's been able to do. The Kings have struggled on the zone entries. He's a guy who can start that. So I want to see how he can implement that into his game a bit more. But I thought his checking was solid. And again, CC as well. I thought Doughty had a pretty good game. Drew a penalty where maybe shouldn't have been called a penalty on Sidney Crosby, who had 4 penalty minutes tonight. But when it's all said and done, LA still loses, so it doesn't matter. So moving on, the Kings get a power play in the second period and just do absolutely nothing with it. They had 2 power plays tonight. They were very uninspiring. The first one, nothing from it. So yeah, and then, obviously, like I mentioned, they're now 3 for 15. It's a desert out there for the Kings on the extra man. And coming into this game, the Kings didn't have a bad power play unit in the context of the league. They were 10th, which is around the middle. I mean, 3 for 15 is just bad. And that brings me to the third period where, we head into intermission tied and Pittsburgh ultimately wins in this third period. The Kings give up the first career goal to Hollander, and he gets a shorthanded goal, his first career goal, like I said. And the crazy thing about this sequence is, first of all, if you're the Kings, why are you not playing more direct on the power play? You have the extra man. It just feels like you can't play end-to-end, kind of more scrappy hockey when you're on the power play. You have to take initiative. You have to take control. You can't get cute. You can't dump the puck, and expect things to happen. You can't give the puck away, and that's what the Kings did. And they give up a goal to Pittsburgh and Hollander when Doughty, Clark, and Deneau are on the ice. I mean, that's 2 defensemen and one of your better two-way forwards. I mean, are we serious? Like, that's crazy. I mean, they crashed between both sides of the ice. They got too cute, and they lost the game. Like, that's just, you pay for mistakes like that, and that's what happened on that play, and that ultimately lost the Kings the game. And so, yeah, I mean, it's deserved when you're getting too cute like that. And, I will say too, like, when the Kings have a power play, they, some of that's on Hiller, some of that's on the personnel, but just not being able to start a sequence and get those zone entries. And Hiller actually did talk a little bit about that in the press conference, like the lack of the zone entries. But you still have to find a way to move the puck. And maybe that has to do with who's on the ice. But at the same time, like, you have 2 defensemen on the ice and one of your better defensive forwards. Maybe the puck movement there isn't quite, maybe as a 5-forward power play, but at the same time, you have a puck moving defenseman in Clark and a guy who, maybe he's not puck moving as his number one thing, but he's an offensive minded guy, and they're still not generating opportunities. And that came off this second Sidney Crosby penalty. So he was in the box during that. The Kings can't score. There was only like 9 seconds or less than 10 seconds after Pittsburgh scored. Kempe gets called for a high stick later on in the game. It was a bad call. Shouldn't have been called. Doesn't matter anyways. So anyways, the Kings basically dropped this game. That's kind of the way it went out. Sidney Crosby scored on the empty net. Cool to see a legend in crypto. But again, the Kings paid for their woes today. 24 penalties on the season. That's the most in all the NHL. And the 24th one was Kempe, the high stick. CC was not bad tonight. I thought Alex Laferriere was really good tonight. That was a big bright spot. He really forced his way toward the crease, toward the slot inside, forechecked well, I thought. But again, it just wasn't enough. I mean, you can point out the individual performances all you want, and Jim Hiller does that a bit in the post-game press conferences, but does it really matter when you're losing? No, it doesn't matter at all. And the Kings paid their price. I thought the first line was pretty quiet tonight. Some of that is probably because of Philip Deneau being there and not Kopitar. I know it's not something you can make an excuse for, but they're just different type of players. I didn't mention the other line changes, but of course, when you don't have Kopitar in there, you're going to have to make other changes too. So Deneau was in the top spot. Turcotte and Fogle and Moore were together, and then Hellenius made his season debut. He didn't do a whole lot, only played like 8 minutes. But yeah, I mean, it's just those lineup changes clearly didn't help. They got a quick start, but they couldn't close out the game. It's just, you have to find a way to channel what you found off the rush in that first period to the next 2 periods, and they just didn't do that. And I don't know if that's an energy thing out of the breaks. I don't know what it is, but if you're LA, the biggest thing right now is you can't overpass, you can't get too cute. You have to set up those offensive chances. And if you're Anton Forsberg, again, you just can't give up some of these soft goals. That just didn't happen a whole lot last year when Darcy Kemper was the main guy. And, he's injured right now. And I know Riddick last year would give up soft goals, but it just can't happen with the Kings' identity. It just cannot happen in that system. Once it does happen, there's no recovery from it. Simply, it's something that if they can't figure that out while Kemper's gone, they're gonna go into a spiral. We'll see how Copley plays when he does play, but yeah, the Kings, they'll be back in action Saturday against Carolina, a team that again has cup contender written all over them. We'll see how much of fruition that actually comes to. I mean, shout out to Shelovs. He had a great game in net tonight for Pittsburgh. Hallander had his first career goal for Pittsburgh. They had some guys really stand out. I will say the Kings, in that first period had their moments. Can you write home about a good first period performance, though, when you lose 4-2? Kings also had 61% face-off winning, percentage. So that's also an interesting thing that sort of intrigued me. I know that doesn't mean a whole lot in the context of goal scoring, but the Kings centers did their job in the dot and just couldn't figure it out. The defense has to just be better, especially on special teams, and the Kings need to be less penalty filled. They have to be more disciplined or they're not going to win a lot of games. And I know for the Kings right now, the focus is just taking it one game at a time, but Right now, it just feels like they are in their own heads. They're trying to simplify things when they just need to play in a way that, is to their game. And I think Jim Hiller said that a lot. Some of the players talked in the press conference about, the issues tonight and just not being able to capitalize when they had those chances. But that's hockey for you. You're not always going to capitalize on chances, but you just need to sometimes stick to your guns and get ways to figure it out, right? It's not about capitalizing on every grade A chance you get in the second period if you're LA, but it's finding a way to build off of the momentum created by them, getting Shelovs out of position, infiltrating the Pittsburgh defense. I mean, the Penguins have had a solid start to the year, but they're not a perfect team by any means, right? So I think there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed if you're the Kings. They'll play Carolina on Saturday, have some road games coming up as well. They actually, for the record, have played better on the road this year than at home, but that's not saying a whole lot. I mean, of course, they do get the win last week and, the overtime loss they forced against Minnesota, but it's been a rough week or so for the Kings out the gate. But that'll wrap it up for me. I'm Casey Kasliner here on Skate of Thrones, covering the Kings from the Crypto.com Arena press box whenever I can make it out. If you like this coverage of LA's hockey team, please let me know. Make sure to drop a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your night.